Today we've got a brand new Planeswalker to talk about for Oathbreaker. This is from the upcoming Commander Masters set. Commodore Guff. For 1 blue, red, white, he starts at 5 loyalty. At the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target Planeswalker you control. +1, create a 1/1 red wizard creature token with tap. Add red, spend this mana only to cast a Planeswalker spell. -3, you draw X cards and Commodore Guff deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of Planeswalkers you control. Also, Commodore Guff can be your commander, and that's really cool for EDH. I think you could build a really cool EDH deck with this. However, this video is about Oathbreaker, and he can already be your Oathbreaker. If you've never played Oathbreaker, it's like Commander, but instead of having a legendary creature as your commander, you choose a Planeswalker to be your Oathbreaker. You also get an instant or sorcery called your signature spell that stays in the command zone that you can cast as long as you control your Oathbreaker. So, Commodore Guff is obviously a Planeswalker tribal Oathbreaker. He's a Super Friends Oathbreaker. I love that. We don't have many options for that right now. There are a couple, but this is by far the best one. By far. He's also the only 3-color option for that, I think. Heck, we don't even have that many 3-color Planeswalkers to start with, so that's a big plus right there. As far as what he does, he ramps and he draws cards, and these are a few of my favorite things. His -3 also deals damage to each opponent, and in a multiplayer format with only 20 life, that should not be ignored. In my experience with EDH and Oathbreaker, one of the weaknesses of Super Friends is that it can be hard to close out games. It can be hard to turn Planeswalkers into actually killing your opponents somehow. The Commander Legends design team must have obviously recognized this, because this is a really cool way of weaponizing your Planeswalkers. Although it's not overpowered, it's not like you're going to have 20 Planeswalkers on the battlefield, and you'll -3 him and just kill everybody at once. If you get 20 Planeswalkers out on the battlefield, you're going to win that game already, but this -3 is just a nice bump in the right direction for power. I'll say though, if you do get 20 Planeswalkers out, you have my eternal respect. Wow. Let's take a look at some of the signature spells that might pair best with this guy. Call the Gatewatch and Ignite the Beacon both search up a Planeswalker and put it into your hand. Deploy the Gatewatch, look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to 2 Planeswalker cards from among them onto the battlefield. I've played this one in a Gideon Tribal Oathbreaker deck, and I liked it a lot, although it did whiff more often than it should have. You gotta be willing to gamble when you pick a card like this as a signature spell, because sometimes you get nothing. Triumphant Reckoning returns all artifact, enchantment, and Planeswalker cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Although 9 mana is really just too much for me. I don't recommend this, but you could. A signature spell with Proliferate would be a really good option. Proliferate up all those loyalty counters. Volt Charge deals 3 damage to any target Proliferate, so you can knock off one of their Planeswalkers with this, or a small creature. Serum Snare returns target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If that permanent had mana value 3 or less, Proliferate. Some kind of soft removal on that. That's okay. I like that it's only 2 mana also. Tezzeret's Gambit costs 4 mana or 3 mana and 2 life to draw 2 cards, then Proliferate. And Experimental Augury costs 2. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library. Proliferate. Flicker also has some potential. Remove target non-token permanent from the game and return it to play under its owner's control. So what do you do with this? You can reset Planeswalker loyalties with this back to starting. Also, when the Planeswalker comes back, you can activate it again because the game will see it as a new permanent. I like that it's only 2 mana also, so it's very recastable. On the downside, it's a sorcery, so you can't use this to protect one of your Planeswalkers. Semester's End says exile any number of target creatures and or Planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of the next end step, return each of them to the battlefield under its owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, and an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a Planeswalker. So this sounds like Flicker, but better, but in a way it is, and in a way it isn't. At first it's an instant, so you can use it to protect your Planeswalkers in combat or in response to their spells. It flickers multiple Planeswalkers at once, which is great. It resets loyalty back to starting +1, so that's an upside. The downside is you don't get to activate these Planeswalkers again when they come back, because they come back at the end step. Which one is better? I really don't know. I would probably say Semester's End, but you can let me know in the comments what you think. I really like the idea of -3ing your commander and then flickering him and -3ing him again, and then maybe flickering him again if this is late game and you have the mana for it, and activating that -3 again and maybe killing everybody. Possibly my favorite option is Brought Back. For white, it's an instant. Choose up to 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Return them to the battlefield tapped. So this is sort of kind of a flicker variant, but you can't just target anything. It has to be something that's put into a graveyard this turn. You can use this defensively if your opponents attack your planeswalkers and your planeswalkers go to the graveyard. However, they might not bother even attacking your planeswalkers because they know this is your signature spell and you're just going to get them back anyway. And I guess in a way that's its own benefit to having this as a signature spell. The other thing you can do with it is minus your planeswalkers to 0, then they go to the graveyard, you cast this, you get them back on the battlefield. Their loyalty obviously is back to starting loyalty, and you can activate them again. You've kind of built your own double flicker when you do this, although it's probably hard to do. You'd need 1 or 2 planeswalkers to both be at the right loyalty to minus them to get to exactly 0. I don't know if that's going to happen that often. Of course, some of the power is that there's lots of other things you can do with this. You can bring back a creature that died in combat. You can bring back a fetch land that you cracked, essentially ramping. I don't know, just a versatile option. Then we've got Cosmic Intervention, a 4-mana instant. If a permanent you control would be put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn, exile it instead. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. It's kind of a mix of some of the other stuff we've talked about already. Note that you can't foretell this unless it's in your hand, so you can't foretell it from the command zone. This video is part of a series, so if you enjoyed this one, you can check out one of my many other videos discussing Oathbreakers and discussing what signature spells might be best with them. Hitting like and or commenting below helps my videos a lot. It tells YouTube to push this video to more people, and I'm hoping to get more eyes on Oathbreaker. I want this format to grow and succeed, not necessarily to rival Commander, but just getting a fraction of the attention that Commander gets would be great with me. And of course, you can subscribe for more. I've got right now daily videos coming out for Oathbreaker. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.